Hello students, welcome back to my channel, and in this video we are going to study about the criticism mentioned by I.A. Richards, new criticism and practical criticism. So let's get into it. So first we study about critic details. He born in 26 February 1893, and his occupation is a critic and poet and a teacher. He died in Cambridgeshire in 1979, and he is famous for his writings, The Meaning of Meaning, The Principles of Literary Criticism, and Practical Criticism. So I.A. Richards influenced both sides of the Atlantic, Europe and America, with his valuable work in literature. He is working from a long time, and he is considered one of the pioneers of new criticism. He is an iconoclast. He denounced the old criticism where critics were supposed to follow the sets of rules and regulation. And according to him, criticism is not mere application of set of rules and intuition, and he's widely read not only in literature but also in philosophy, psychology, aesthetics, and fine arts, and the broad principles of various sciences. And some critics think Coleridge is the only critic with whom he may be compared. So these are the list of some of his work. His famous work, The Meaning of Meaning, in 1923, The Principle of Literary Criticism, The Practical Criticism, Science and Poetry, Coleridge on Imagination, Mencius of the Mind, The Philosophy of Rhetoric, and Speculative Instruments. So, in techniques and principles, he was a devoted supporter of a close textual and verbal study of analysis of work of art, and his approach is pragmatic and empirical. And his work is a milestone in the history of literary criticism regarding verbal and textual analysis, interpretation, and evaluation. And by his own work, Richard has made literary criticism factual, scientific, and complete. So let's about talk about techniques and principle. While preparing this book, The Practical Criticism, he says, I have a set of three aims before me in constructing this book. First is to introduce new kind of documentation to those who are interested in the contemporary state culture, whereas critics, as philosophers, as teachers, as psychologists, or merely as curious person, and to provide a new technique for those who wish to discover for themselves what they think and feel about poetry, and why should like or dislike it. And third is to prepare the way for educational methods more efficient than those who use now in developing discrimination and the power to understand what we hear and read. So his quality as a critic that he should grasp a strong control over a word and the effect they produce. And a critic, he should be a learned person as a critic and be able to distinguish experiences from one another. And he must be a sound judge of values and have an adequate knowledge of psychology. And he should focus the implicit meaning through the window of explicit wordings. And he says that the critic is expected to understand and expand the context of the poem so that the poem may become intelligible and its full value may be grasped. So he focused on textual analysis also. He say a poet tried to communicate, and language is the means of that communication. Language is made of words, and hence study of words is all important. If we are to understand the meaning of word, we have to understand the language first. So words carry four kind of meaning, or to be more precise, the total meaning of the word depend upon four factors, on total factors like sense, feeling, tone, and intention. He says that sense is something that is communicated by the plain literal meanings of the word, and feelings, when we say something, we have a feeling about it, emotions, attitude, will, desire, pleasure, unpleased, and the rest. Word express these feelings and these nuances of interest. Tone, the writer attitude to his reader, which is a relation between them. The writer chooses his words and arrange them, keeping in the mind that the kind of reader are likely to read his work. And the last is intention. It has an object. It is the writer aim, which may be conscious or unconscious. It refers to the emphasis, shapes, and the arrangement, or draws attention to something of importance. In next slide, he talks about the context also. The context in which a word has been used is all important. The word have different meanings and in different contexts. A context is a set of entities, things, events related in a certain way. Words are symbols or sign and they deliver their full meaning only in particular context. Meaning is dependable on context, but the context may not always be apparent and easily perceptible. So, the literary compositions that are characterized by rich complexity in which certain links are suppressed for concentration of effective and forceful expression. So, the complete poem influences a single word or phrase contained in it either through the feelings or through the sense. And hence, Richard argues we need one careful reading to find the meaning and another to grasp feeling. Then you focus on rhythm and meter. Rhythm results from the repetition of particular sounds and the expectancy this repetition arouses in the mind. Meter is a specialized form of rhythm. It is rhythm made more regular and cast into set and well-formed fat pattern. Both rhythm and meter are organic and integral part of the poem, and they both determine the meaning of the words used by the poets. And then he focused on the value of metaphor. A metaphor is a shift that carrying over of a word from its normal use to a new use, like sense metaphor and emotive metaphors. And it is a semi-surreptitious metaphor by which a greater variety of elements can be brought into a fabric of the experience. The metaphorical meaning arises from the interrelation of sense, tone, feeling, and intentions. He mentioned that poetic truth is different from the scientific truth. It is a matter of emotional belief rather than intellectual belief, and it is not a matter of verification but of attitudes and emotional reactions. And he mentioned that it is evident that the bulk of poetry consists of statements which only the very foolish would think of attempting to verify. They are not the kind of things which can be verified. So, in new and practical criticism after World War, first there emerged an Anglo-American literary critical theory that insisted of the intrinsic value of the work of art and focused intention on the individual work alone as an independent unit of meaning. And it was opposed to the critical practice of bringing historical or biographical data to bear on the interpretation of a work. And new critics would usually pay relatively little attention to the historical setting of the works which they analyze, treating literature as a sphere of activity of its own. So, in practical criticism began in 1920 with the series of experiments by a Cambridge critic with I.E. Richards, and he gave poems to his students for interpretation without any information about the poet, its title, or when they were written. And in Practical Criticism, which book published in 1929, he mentioned the results of its experiment. And the objective of his work was to encourage students to concentrate on the words on the page rather than relying on the preconceived and received believed about the text. Like in this early important work tradition, where those of the English critics like I.A. Richards in Practical Criticism, William Emerson in Seven Types of Ambiguity in 1930, T.S. Eliot with his critical essays tradition and the individual talent, and Hamlet and his problem. So I mentioned about some practical criticism writers and movement that did not have a name. However, until appearance of the John Corday Ransom New Criticism era in 1941, the work that loosely organized the principle of this basically linguistic approach to literature. So, it's a psychological approach toward this theory that poetry performs a healing function by organizing a variety of human impulses, and art is means where we can gain emotional balance, mental equilibrium, peace, and rest, and it enables human mind to organize itself. And society in which arts are freely cultivates exhibit mental and emotional calmness than the society in which art are not involved. And these are some or more points over here. So the art state of mind it produces with the faculties are alive and active and pleasure result. So I hope you like this video and please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.